how did Bowman Gray become so important in NASCAR?
You got to figure when NASCAR first started, it started in Greensboro and Winston-Salem.
It's funny that little racetrack in Winston-Salem has moments that just jump out of your career. When you won this trophy, it was just a win at Bowman Gray.
Right.
Ultimately, it became a big win at Bowman Gray because it was the first race you won of the 10 in a row.
10 in a row.
Record that's never been broken, record that will never be broken.
The most nervous I've ever been in a race car was when we got to Bowman Gray. Now, why, I don't know.
All right, here we are at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, inside the Hall of Honor, and there's no better place to talk about Bowman Gray than here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and there's no better person to talk about it with than my man, Richard Petty, my dad. Yeah. So let's talk about it.
We was here.
Yeah, you were there. So Bowman Gray, we're going back there. We've talked about it before. We're going back with the Clash this year.
Right.
But how did Bowman Gray become such a cornerstone or so important in NASCAR?
You got to figure when NASCAR first started, it started in Greensboro and Winston-Salem. And that Bowman Gray was one of the first race tracks that NASCAR sanctioned. So it was a natural deal that once they started running the Cup stuff, that we go to Bowman Gray. So it's been a tradition all those years. I think it ran for 28 years or something, you know what I mean? And then when Winston got involved and stuff, we started just running nothing but bigger 250-mile races. So that cut out all the small races. So Bowman Gray was one of them that went away.
So that's a little funny to me that NASCAR kind of started in the Piedmont, started in that area, had offices there. R.J. Reynolds was based in Winston-Salem, and they eliminated their hometown race. So that's a little strange.
Yeah, but they came with a whole new deal.
Yeah.
Because up until they got involved, when in 71 they got involved, and we ran 48 races. And then in 72, they said, this is too much. We're advertising to the same people and all this. So they cut it back to, I think, 28 races or something. And then it's progressed now to 36 races.
Yeah.
But they done away with everything, but it had to be a 250-mile race.
Yeah. All right, so Bowman Gray there's been moments at Bowman Gray that stick out during your career. And that's hard to do. Over so many years that you raced and Granddaddy raced and so many races that you won and championships, it's funny that little racetrack in Winston-Salem has moments that just jump out of your career. One of them will start at the very beginning, and on the list as we did this stuff, you ran Columbia first.
Right.
Columbia was your first race.
Convertible race.
And a convertible race. This has basically Bowman Gray as your second race in a convertible, but it's your fourth or fifth race that you had run.
Right.
They ran convertibles and hardtops together. Yeah. What was it like running convertibles and hardtops together, and do you remember anything about that race?
I don't really remember a whole lot about it. I know that I'd ran 3 or 4 races up before we ran Bowman Gray. And the most nervous I've ever been in a race car was when we got to Bowman Gray. Now, why, I don't know. But for some reason, maybe it was because Bowman Gray had been there. We used to go and watch them run on Saturday night, the Myers boys, Pee Wee Jones, that crowd. And so maybe it was just because someplace that had a little bit of history.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I don't even remember. I think I probably spent more time in the infield on the grass playing football than I did on the racetrack.
So I'm going to go a sidebar here down a road. That's 58. 59, you go to Daytona, and you guys run convertibles and hardtops together.
Right.
How strange was that? I mean, because you've gone from a quarter mile, you've gone from a football field, and now you're at Daytona with the same group of cars and the same people, basically.
Well, the big deal, nobody had ever been to Daytona.
Yeah.
So it was strange to everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the deal with the convertibles, they'd run 130 mile an hour. Hardtops run 140, 42, So that didn't work out too good for the convertible.
Yeah. So you were more nervous going to Bowman Gray with a convertible than you were going to Daytona.
Going to Daytona.
Yeah. That's all right. So we got a couple of trophies sitting here.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about these trophies. This is 1967. Now, when you won this trophy, it was just a win at Bowman Gray.
Right.
Ultimately, it became a big win at Bowman Gray because it was the first race you won of the 10 in a row.
10 in a row.
Of 10 races in a row that you went on to win. A record that's never been broken, a record that I can pretty much say will never be broken. What do you remember about that 67 race?
You know, I don't.
Yeah.
You know, it was just another race. We went to do the best we could, and we happened to win the race. I do know that, you know, it was the Myers Brothers Memorial.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think the ladies, the wives were there to present the trophy.
Yeah.
And basically, that's about all I remember about it.
So you went on to win 10 in a row. Do you remember? So you're telling me you remember the 11th one, the one you lost, better than you remember the first one. What was the 11th one?
11th was Charlotte.
Charlotte.
And we got in a wreck over there. Anyhow, tore the door off the thing. And I think I run a while after that, finally blew a motor. So that was the end of it.
We go back again. Bowman Gray, your second convertible, your fourth or fifth race overall in your entire life. You come back in 67, you win, you go on to win 10 in a row and set a record. And then this trophy is a 69.
Yeah.
This trophy is your 100th win. Right. So Bowman Gray was the fifth race total of your career, but your 100th win. What do you remember about the 100th win? You know, we took a tour of Bowman Gray, and I'll say this. I remember pretty much where we were sitting in the grandstands because it was a funny little racetrack where there was no infield. But what do you remember about that 100th win?
Nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, it was just another race. We showed up. At that time, in 69, we had a Ford.
Yeah.
So naturally, we was trying to impress those people. But the big deal, they just run the race. I've read a little bit about it. I think I sat on pole, spun out the first lap. And from what I can pick up, Pearson and myself raced a lot. Isaac, I think, must have led the race all the way. And so we stopped. Pearson and myself stopped and got gas. And I think our pit stop was a little bit quicker than Pearson, so that put us ahead. And Isaac tried to make the whole race. When 6-8 laps to go, he ran out of gas. So that put us back in front of the race.
Yeah. So Isaac's strategy was not to pit.
Right.
And that strategy didn't work. So strategy was in existence in this sport, even in 1969. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
So you told me the story. The one thing you did remember was the guy cutting off gas caps.
At that time, we had just regular gas caps on the cars. And they had a piece of wire and stuff so that when you took it off, you didn't lose it. So that the guys could put it right back on. And there was a guy had a sack, and he was going around with cutters, cutting all the gas caps.
Taking a souvenir. That was going to be a souvenir. Everybody's gas cap.
Souvenirs.
Yeah.
So he got caught.
He got caught.
Yeah.
That's good. So now I'm going to move to the last race that they run at Bowman Gray. And this race made Bowman Gray live in infamy as an anomaly to any cup race that had ever been run. And I say that because that's the race that until recently had no winner.
Right.
Had no winner.
Right.
Bobby Allison was flagged the winner. You were flagged second place.
That's right.
But in the record book, there was never a winner for the final race until Mike Helton and Jim France and NASCAR credited Bobby Allison with it most recently.
Bobby was running one of the small cars.
And when you say small cars, they called them pony cars at the time.
Yeah,
What kind of car did he have? Mustang? What did he have?
I think he had a Mustang.
Okay.
Anyhow, and they had a circuit, and we had a cup circuit. And they ran out of cars, so they started running them together, especially on really short track.
Yeah.
And so Bobby wound up, I think, winning the race because he didn't make a pit stop. I had to stop and get gas. And so even though I guess he got the trophy and went away and thought he won the race, they never put a winner down for that race. All these years, 75 or 70-some years.
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah.
And so finally, 6 months ago and stuff, they finally said, okay, we got a race here and no winner. And so what happened, some of the cup stuff and the pony cars got kind of mixed up, and they didn't know whether, when the pony car won, was it a cup race or
Yeah.
was it a pony race?
Yeah.
So they got kind of confused along
Yeah.
there.
So it's just amazing to me that through the history of the sport and all the controversy that we've had at the end of races, that was one race that they just made no call on.
Right.
They just made no call. So in the beginning at Bowman Gray, and we go back to 58 and some of that, where they ran convertibles and hardtops. Then we go back to the 70s, and they ran pony cars
Right.
and cup cars together. Now we're going back in, and they're going to run these cars.
Yes.
They're going to run today's car, the next gen car. With what you know about the types of racing they have there, the racing you've seen there, what do you expect out of this race?
You know, when we used to run and stuff, the cars had metal fenders, so you had to be careful not to touch anybody because it would bend a fender against the tire and wouldn't pop back out.
Yeah.
These cars are flexible. They can get knocked in, but the way the compound is, the way the cars are made, they pop back out.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot more beating and bashing than what you've ever seen when we used to run there.
Yeah.
So it's going to make it pretty interesting from that standpoint.
So there's a ton of history there for the sport, and they're getting ready to make more history there.
Right.
Because after going back after this many years, to go back in this place, how big a moment do you think that this is? Obviously, it's a great PR moment for the sport.
Right.
But as you look at it, how excited are you to see them go back
You
there?
know, I think I'm enthused about the thing because I've never seen nothing but the big cars run there.
Yeah,
To watch the smaller cars and the beating and bashing, I think is going to be. But the old fans can come back and see new cars, okay?
Yeah.
And then you got the new fans that's never seen us run on a track like that anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to bring the history back to the future.
yeah,
And I think it's a real good cross deal, sort of like the Wilkesboro deal. Only that I think, from my standpoint, this has got a little bit more history than what Wilkesboro had.
yeah. All right, so Bowman Gray this weekend.
This weekend.
Yep. You've got a ton of history there. 10 in a row started there. 100 was there. We'll be watching this weekend to see.
We're not going to miss a lap, that's
Yep,
for sure.
See who puts their name in the record book.
Okay.